Last few points I want to go over, and then when we have time I can talk a little bit more about the actual carpentry. There's a lot of things to cover when we talk about moving our homes into the country, and some of the things that we want to consider. Does everybody understand me? ¿Todos me entienden? Yeah.
¿Alguien no entiende inglés?
Sí, okay. Hago inglés y si algo no entiende nomás levante la mano. ¿Está bien? No entiende inglés. Ok, lo voy a hacer en español porque ya Ginny se fue. El pastor y Brother George se tienen que preparar para irse. So I'll do the best we can, bouncing back and forth. Hago lo mejor con inglés y español. Algunas cosas que quiere considerar, some of the things you want to consider when moving to the country, cuando se sale del campo, es asegúrese antes de comprar una propiedad en varias cosas. Asegúrese, ya el pastor habló de ciertas cosas que son necesarias. Si no hay agua, if there's no water, you're going to have to put a well, or a source of water. He talked about trees for cutting. The trees usually, los árboles normalmente, you use the trees that are falling, or they're dead, or they're getting ready to go down. And when you use trees on your property, even though by God's grace, He's going to come sooner than we're going to see trees grow, aunque el tiempo no va a permitir. But usually, what it is that when you cut trees, you plant trees. Normally, trees by themselves, they plant by wind, by birds, and by the fall. You know, the seeds that fall from the trees, they'll replant. But you want to make sure that trees are growing, and you don't cut all your trees completely. And then you don't have trees that are not going to give you the wood necessary. Sometimes what you can do, a veces lo que puede hacer, is you can buy wood. And sometimes it's still cheaper to buy wood than it is to buy gas. And they can bring it to you in a semi. Te lo pueden traer en un semi, and you have to now cut it yourself and prepare it. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm just giving you different things. Les estoy dando diferentes cosas que mantengan en mente, that you maintain in mind as you look for country property. You want to make sure that you have an area that you can use or create for your garden. Remember, we were told in the Spirit of Prophecy, the first thing that we have to think about, where is my garden going to go? ¿Dónde va mi jardín? Normally, tendency is, where's my house going to go? We can put the house here. And I've seen the mistake. I've visto el error. People put their home, and then they don't know what they're going to do, where they're going to put their garden yet. So, that's important. Another thing you want to do, otra cosa que quiera hacer. Correct. You want to make sure that the sun, that it has direct sun. So you want to make sure it's to the south where there's no shade. Trees are not shading the area. Correct. Another thing you want to look for is if there's any liens or deeds that are not free of the house, of the property. In other words, in other palabras, you can actually buy a property, they can sell you the property, and you not realizing that there's a lien on that property, or that the deed is not clear, que no está libre el título. Yeah, so sometimes you have to get an attorney to at least investigate, or you yourself have to make sure that the property is free of deeds.
Also make sure they haven't sold the mineral rights.
That's another thing, right? They have not sold the mineral rights.
Okay. Cuando uno va a comprar anyway, mayormente uno usa un title company, una compañía de título que hace todo el estudio de la propiedad.
Depende, porque aquí el plano Jorge no uso compañía de título.
Pero yo lo uso porque...
Because sometimes you buy, from owner to owner. Land for sale by owner. But now uno dice, oh, mira, and look, it's a great price. Wow, man, I can't pass it up. No lo puedo dejar ir. Y ahora te encuentras que la propiedad tiene a lien on it, and now you're stuck. The property now is taken from you. The other thing you want to keep in mind when looking for country property is make sure that the access to the property is not going to be landlocked. Anybody know what landlocked is? ¿Saben todo lo que es landlocked? Es cuando tu terreno, es when your property, let's say for instance, Brother George bought this property, and that road belongs to the neighbor on that side. And then he's got a property on his left, on his right, in the back, in the front, and the only way to get to his property was from that road. La única manera de llegar a esa propiedad es a través de la carretera. Now the new owner says, I'm closing my road. Now you have a land that you can't get to except if you have a helicopter. And nobody's going to buy a helicopter to get to the land. So be careful with land that could be landlocked.
I mean, that's correct. Pero creo que aquí en Tennessee, que la verdad, duda. Aquí en Tennessee, a lo mejor entender que entonces si uno va al county house report y el juez dice, ok, al vecino de allá, por aquí que va a pasar, por aquí que va a pasar.
That may be in Tennessee, but not in all states. In Wisconsin, one neighbor has a property and he's landlocked and he don't know what to do. Lot of money and attorneys, and it gets really sticky. You need to make sure that your property is not going to end up in landlocked, okay? Where you cannot get access.
Que sea un easement, the easement has to be deeded.
The easement has to be deeded. There has to be a road that is not owned by anybody or by the county, you know, that is public access, okay? Keep in mind, when you go to the country, you're in charge of maintaining your roads. You're in charge of cleaning your roads. The county does not, I don't think they come up and clean these roads and level them out, you know? Those are things that you're in charge of. You have to deal with erosion, with water running off as you start to build on the land, okay? These are things that are very important to keep in mind. Anybody else have any other things you want to share? I appreciate the participation. Okay, what other things should we keep in mind when we're moving into the country? ¿Qué otras cosas? Let's talk about wood a little bit. When I first moved to the country, I had no clue how do you prepare wood for burning. Do you know that when you cut a tree and you chop it up, we're going to talk a little bit about that, you cannot burn that wood? You need for it to what? To dry or to cure. Do you know what percentage that is? Well, there's a device, and I'm going to show you a device in a minute here, that you use to test the wood, to test the moisture content. The moisture content on the wood should be between 18 and 20% moisture. If the wood is too high in water, you're going to have a couple of problems. You're going to have problems getting the wood started. You're going to have a problem burning hot. And sometimes it even creates crucible in the chimney. Crucible is what builds up in your chimney when you burn low. Because it's wet, it will not burn hot. And when a fire does not burn hot, it creates crucible in your chimney. Okay? And that builds up, and that will create a chimney fire. Pastor Torres had a chimney fire in his house when they moved in shortly after they moved into the property they're in now. If he was here, he could tell you more about it. They had fire in the wood. They were getting out on Sabbath morning. From what I understand in the testimony, his house caught on fire because he had what is called a chimney fire. The crucible built up had caught on fire, and it caused the house to burn. So he had a fire when he recently moved into the country. So you want to make sure that you use that. Now, if you're burning hardwood, usually hardwood is the better wood to burn because hardwood lasts longer and it doesn't have the sap like your pine wood. Pine wood has a lot of sap, and sap is what builds up a lot more if you're not burning hot. So pine, you can burn pine, but you got to burn pine. It burns up quicker. Okay, pine burns up much faster. All your soft woods will burn up faster. Your pines, your we have up there, we have cedar. Cedar burns very, very fast. You know, pine wood. So we like to use maple or oak. That's what we have on our property. What kind of hardwoods are around here?
Oak.
Oak? You have oak around here? Okay. So you want to make sure that you use the wood after it's been cured. Usually, like my brother said, it could take between 6 months, even sometimes to 3 years. So you got to be cutting the wood this year, right? That you're going to use not this winter, but when? The following winter. You want to be burning wood that you've had already sitting there from way last year. You see the cycle? So you want to, winter's coming and I got to start chopping wood. That ain't going to work. You want to start chopping wood, yes. Usually the best time is in the fall. But you start preparing your wood that you're going to need for the following year, and you're going to burn the wood that you had cut from the year previous. Follow me? Okay.
What's the best way to store the wood once it's chopped?
Okay, very good. The best way to store wood, and I'll jump around a little bit, but I want to get as much I'm trying to think of as much information as I can give you. The best way to store your wood is to keep it off the ground. Okay, you can use pallets, you can use it on boards. Try to keep it off the ground. If you have to have it on the ground, then you can know that the bottom row is going to maintain moisture. greater than the rest of your wood. The second thing to maintain with your wood is stack it with the bark facing up. Stack it with the bark facing up. Because in case it rains, and if you have not covered it, the rain will continue to go down on the bark and not be absorbed by the grain in the wood. Okay? The other thing that you want to do, and I'm going to show you some images right now, is you want to cover your wood. When you stack it, you want to cover it, or you can build a wood shed. Okay? When you do this, you want to make sure that you try to put it in a way that you know what wood you have and how much you burn a year. Let me tell you what the way firewood is measured. It's measured by a cord, C-O-R-D. By a what? A cord. A cord measures approximately 4 feet wide, 4 feet high, by 8 feet long, well stacked. That's a cord. Okay? We burn about 3 to 4 cords a year on our single mobile home, on our double wide mobile home. But now we have the shop. We have a total of 3 stoves in our property. We have one in my shop. We have one in the meeting room, and then we have one in the house. So you want to make sure that you know how many cords you're burning a year, so that you have that provision every year, so you know what you're burning. You follow me? So it's a good idea to know how much wood you're burning, and to measure it, like I said, is by cords. What kind of stove should we buy? There's different types of wood stove. There's a wood stove, pellets, and there's also charcoal. Coal stoves. Coal stoves. We have one coal stove, and we have 2 wood burning stoves. Sometimes the coal stoves have a kit that can be converted to wood. Now, what's the difference? Well, coal, you cannot produce it on your own land. You have to buy the coal, right, in order to burn. But some advantages and disadvantages are, some of the advantages why I put this particular coal stove in the meeting room, which is in the pole building, is because it's less bulky than wood, it burns longer, and it burns hotter. Okay? So that's the reason why and we buy it by the pallet. So a pallet of coal costs $480 for us in Wisconsin. So I buy them by the pallet. So I have a pallet of coal, and we use that in the pole building. So there's different types of stoves that you can buy. There's stoves that will heat the house, will cook and heat your water when you're burning wood. Okay, those are stoves that you can purchase. Sometimes there's people, the Amish build a lot of stoves. I know there's an Adventist brother, if you need his information, that builds stoves, that you can get in contact with him. I can give you that information. Yeah, and so he builds wood stoves. You want to make sure that you have at least 2 stoves. One stove in the living space where you live, because that's where you're going to heat your whole home and cook during the winter. And you will need a stove maybe outside or in another building, because when it's plain summer and it's 95 degrees out, you don't want to be burning wood in your house. Especially no buy, no sell, no air condition. You're going to cook yourself. So you want to, I remember visiting Brother Jared Franklin in Canada, and he used to have a camp of 10 days also. But he had a school for 10 years, off-grid school, Seventh-day Adventist school for 10 years off-grid. And he had a stove inside where they had the classes, and he had a stove outside of the front porch. So he literally, you would walk out, you have a lot of, I see these homes a lot, even in this area too, where you have a house with a nice big front porch. So that he would actually have a stove outside in front of his porch. So whenever they were cooking, they could go right out there and cook the beans or rice or whatever, vegetables, and then you come in the house in the wintertime. So there's a good idea to have 2 stoves and not just the one in the house when the time comes of no buy, no sell. The stove, so what we have in the house is actually called a wood burner, wood burning stove for heat. We cannot really cook with that one. We did not install yet a actual cooking stove in the house, but like I said, we have 2 other stoves that we could use to cook when the time comes. What other information can I give you? The stoves will vary in price, and it will also vary in the size of area that you're heating. you want to buy a stove that's going to be adequate for the square footage that you have. A stove for 1,000 square feet, or 2,000 square feet, or 3,000 square feet. Okay. If you're going to put a stove in a house and you have multiple levels, where's the best place to put the stove?
In the lower one.
In the basement, in the lowest floor, because the heat will rise, and then you open vents on the floors, and the heat works its way up through these vents on the floors. Okay. That's the way you want to have a place also to store your wood inside, and you want to store your wood not too far from your house. Especially us, sometimes we'll get a foot and a half, 2 feet of snow. I don't want to be walking a very, very long distance for my wood in the middle of winter. So you want to keep those things in mind. How do you cut your wood? Let's talk about that a little bit, and then I'm going to show you some images that I have of some of the wood splitters that I would recommend. You want to cut your wood in the size that is adequate for your firebox. So I'm not going to tell you make it 12 inches or make it 16 inches. Depending on the size of your firebox is the length of the logs that you're going to cut before you split. You follow me? So depending on the size of your firebox is the size of the logs that you're going to be cutting, that you're going to be splitting. When you set up your stove, make sure there's different types of stoves. There's stoves that are designed that can be very close to the back of the wall, and then there's stoves that cannot be so close to the back that you need to maintain a certain distance. I recommend a stove that let me back it up a little bit. So a stove that you use in the basement, they're actually designed to heat the whole house. There's a stove that is actually designed, and what that does, it's got some stoves have panels on the side and in the back that it allows the heat to intensify and work its way up. You still get horizontal heat, but it's actually designed to heat the house. So you can make sure that you're getting the right stove for the right application. Okay, so that when you install it, you do the right stove. The second thing I want to recommend is that you use insulated pipe on the stack. Okay, I recommend 8-inch. Now I've been living in this Amish community, and I've related a lot with I've been learning a lot from the Amish, how they set up their stoves and what they do. And we set up our stoves now with stainless steel, insulated 8-inch stainless steel. Even if it's a 6-inch opening on your stove, we taper that and do an 8-inch, because an 8-inch will create better flow, and the insulation will keep it from potentially causing a fire to any of your materials, surrounding materials. Okay, so sometimes if you can do a section, if you're not in any danger, you can use a section that is not insulated, and that pipe will also radiate heat. Okay, so you'll gain some heat from that. So in, like, for instance, like the one in the barn that we have, I have a good section of just regular pipe, and then from there I convert it to the 8-inch insulated, because I don't want it to touch and burn anything. Okay. Typically, when you put your stove chimney, it's supposed to be at least to the height of the highest point of your roof. Okay, it's supposed to be a little bit higher than that. It's supposed to be, or at least as high as that. But it is recommended to go higher, so that you have that draft that draws the air out of the chimney. Let me think what else I can do. Okay, let me show you some images of what we have here, and hopefully you can. I know I don't have the PowerPoint. Like I said, what happens is that I have my PowerPoint and I have my cable in the PowerPoint, and I always leave it in there. George said, "You got a PowerPoint?" Yes, and I forgot my cable. That's why I couldn't hook it up today. Here's the log splitter that I particularly have. It's called a wood miser. Now, there's a couple of different types of log splitters. Now, obviously, of times nobody don't sell, you can't buy gasoline. These are going to be, you're not going to use these. So I already have 3 or 4 different acts, and we still use them. Want to keep warm. Yes, please. So this is the particular one that I have, and I'll tell you why I purchased this one after doing quite a bit of research on log splitters. First of all, Wood Miser is a brand that I trust. They make sawmills, and they make very reliable sawmills. They're very well known for their sawmills. But the log splitters come in a couple of different ways. You have what is called a hydraulic log splitter that works with a gas engine. Okay, that's what that is. It is a hydraulic log splitter that works with a gas engine. You have what is called a rack and pinion log splitter. It's called a rack and pinion, and I'm going to show you an image on that in a minute. That works with a gas engine, but what that does, it drives the splitter. And I find that dangerous because my kids help me to split wood, and so the velocity of that can be dangerous if you so happen to get your hand caught on it. And people have caught their fingers or thumbs, and pretty much you lose it. This one works at a slow speed, but the reason I like this log splitter, as you can see right now, is because it's got a double edge on both ends. So typical log splitters will split and then it'll retrieve. Then you have to go again, split and retrieve. What this one does is it splits going that way, and you put another log on it and it splits coming back. Then you put another log in it and it splits going in there. So you double the time when you're splitting wood. Now, as I said in the beginning, think of others as well. You say, well, why do you need to split wood so fast? Well, because sometimes we go help people split their wood. Okay, and we want to go and help them get their wood split, and maybe they haven't been able to purchase their log splitter, or it's an elderly couple, so we've been able to help other people with what we own. Whatever you invest, remember, you consecrate it to the Lord, that means you're going to use it to what? To bless others. Okay?
And what's the price, kind of?
On this log splitter, if I am not mistaken, I spent just a little over $2,000. You know?
What's the tonnage?
I beg your pardon?
What's the tonnage?
It's about a 20 ton, 18 or 20 ton log splitter. So I think I spent maybe $1,800 bucks, 18, but I don't think I spent more than 2,000 on it. It was 16 or 18. Because you will see log splitters. It doesn't have to be this one, but you'll see log splitters that are sometimes $600, $800, $1,000. Make sure there's so many different log splitters. I don't have the time to go over each one of them, but make sure you check some reviews and get the opinion of other people that own those log splitters. Okay, so that you can find out if the log splitter is worth it, what it says. You know, it'll say, sometimes it'll say it's a 22-ton hydraulic log splitter, and when you go, it doesn't have the force that you think it would have to split the wood. Okay, so make sure you use that. What I like about the Wood Miser, if you had a property with a lot of wood, that you had a lot of wood, or you had access to a lot of wood, another way to make a business in the country is firewood. So Wood Miser makes a very nice commercial log splitter that you can actually use. Thank you, brother. That you can actually use to make a small log splitting wood fire business, and then you sell the wood by the cord. Okay, so that's why it's important to know what a cord measures. So another way to start a business in the country is to sell firewood. Doesn't mean that has to be your only resource. My neighbor, who's down the road, who's Amish, he does multiple things. He collects maple. He does maple syrup, and he gets he does the cans on the maple trees. Collects the sap. He also he's a school teacher at the Amish school. He also works in construction in the summer when they're not in class. He also has in his case, he does cows. You know, he sells calves. But he has 5 or 6 different things that he does to bring income to his home. So our mind should not be, well, I'm just going to have a log business. Is that going to be enough? No. If you're going to move to the country and you're going to give up your job, there's different things that you can do to make a business. Brother George is going to do commercial farming, right? I'm personally not interested in commercial farming. Not that I wouldn't grow it to help others, but I'm just not, I don't think that's what the Lord is calling me to do commercial farming. So you do with what is in your hand, with whatever the Lord gives you to work with, right?
Back to the firewood. When we cover it, is it okay to cover it with plastic?
You can cover it with plastic or metal. Some people do what they'll do is they just stick a metal on top of it, right? They'll leave everything, because you don't want to cover it completely with plastic, because the wood has to dry. Okay, so you want to cover just the top of it. So they'll take an old piece of metal roofing, they'll lay it on top, and then they'll lay some weight on it so the wind doesn't take it, just to protect it from the rain. But the wood needs to breathe.
But primarily, Brother Sam, is it just to prevent that fire in the wood stove? But if you're just using it strictly just for outdoor cooking, would that be okay to leave it, cook
okay.
it like fresh and moist?
Well, what she's asking is, I think, let me see if I'm understanding correctly. She's asking if, when we store our wood, is it okay to cover the wood that we're storing? My point is that to store it, you want to just cover the top of it, not really the sides of it. Because you don't want to trap moisture. You want to let it breathe. So you only want to cover the top. So you can cover it with plastic or tarp, but just make sure you get the top of it so that air gets in there.
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I guess my question is there really a need to cure it and take care of it and protect it from the elements, from moisture, if you're just using it for outdoor cooking, like over a bonfire?
Okay. If you're gonna,
Versus a wood stove.
right, if you're gonna just burn it like on a wood pile, then and you don't really care about that, well, then it doesn't make any difference, you know, right?
Yeah.
But if you're gonna use it for burning in your stove, in the house, or burning any one of your stoves,
Okay.
remember what happens when you don't take care of it? It's gonna build chlorosol on your chimney,
Okay.
and it's gonna be harder to burn. It's gonna be harder to start, and you're not gonna keep it going.
Got it.
Yeah. If you get wood that is just right, I mean, I've had what they call all-nighters, a nice big chunk, and I can put it in the firebox at night when we go to bed. That'll usually keep us nice and warm in the dead of winter until the morning. We call them all-nighters. But if it's properly cured, you know, and I open the air vent to the right point, I mean, it's really just. How many of you here have heated with wood? How many of you are heated with wood? Wow, I'll tell you, once you heat with wood, whew, nothing heats like wood. I mean, sometimes we're 15 degrees below zero, and we gotta crack the windows. Yeah, because it gets so hot. You know, because I'm burning hot. I'm like, it's cold out, I'm burning hot. But then in the middle of the day, the sun comes out, you know, we're burning hot, and we gotta crack those windows when it's 15 below sometimes, 12, 10 below.
¿Hay una manera de dosificarlo?
I'm sorry.
¿Hay una manera de dosificar el flujo de aire caliente?
De que salga? Okay, he's asking if there's a way to allow the smoke from the chimney to regulate the exhaust. There isn't. They usually don't put any dampers on that because that would be dangerous. If that damper goes bad, or if any restriction goes bad, it would create all that smoke, you know, to be there. So that has to be straight through. No dampers, nothing on the exhaust. There is, however, stoves that have an intake. So some stoves will require an intake of air, okay? And then that gives it better flow. Mine's in the house has an intake. The other two don't have an intake, only exhaust. Does that make sense? Okay, so obviously you want to get the right axe for log splitting, okay? And I don't have all the things that I would like to bring to show you how to sharpen an axe and then show you how to sharpen a hatchet. What you want to do, and I'm going to just try to visualize, is when you have your axe, you want to put it in a stable position, okay? And you want to kind of, with a file, the best way I like to sharpen the axe is I put my hand over the axe. So let's assume that this is my axe, and I'll take my file and I'll do this, okay? You know how your axe is like this, okay? Some people like to, you know, up and down. Sometimes you can hit your fingers, you know, wear gloves maybe. But I like the motion that you put your hand on the axe and you have the file and you run it from side to side. I believe it's more even, it's safer, and it's easier, okay? So get your hand in a position where you hold the file on one end and get it so that you get it where you're filing the bevel and you're swinging it, you know, the full length of the axe. You do the same thing, you flip it around and you do the same thing, okay? You file that, you do that with your axe and your hatchets, okay? The hatchet is a smaller axe, usually used to chop small branches, or a machete. You know, we have some machetes too. Anybody here use machetes? I know that in Puerto Rico they use a lot of machetes. Mexico too. You know, so we have like 2 machetes, I think, and then, you know, the small axe. So a machete is really, and if it's sharp, you can probably cut through some pretty good sized wood, you know. When those machetes are sharp, they're really nice. I mean, that's my son's favorite.
We use it for coconuts in the Philippines.
Oh, you're for coconuts in the Philippines, all right.
And also there comes different types of machetes.
Yes.
Wider blades. So all depends what you're going to be doing or using it for.
Right,
You need
right.
it longer, shorter,
Right.
or
It's good to buy a variety. Things like machetes and axes, you know, and hatchets are things you need to have for a time when you can't go get gasoline. You know what? Maybe we're not yet in a no buy, no sell, but look at what happened with gasoline. Or you know what? Did you hear? This whole area is out of gasoline. All the gas stations are out of gas. You know what I mean? Be prepared, right? The idea is that we would be prepared. So have these things ready for the time when you need them, okay? But if you have access to buying a log splitter, use a log splitter. Nothing wrong with that, right?
Because there's one that, there should be in other places, that is manual, just like you use your hands
To do what, brother?
to cut wood.
Ah.
With splitter, pero
The mano?
manual.
Okay, I've seen the small hand splitters, but what I've seen them for is usually for making kennel wood. Okay, so what's kennel wood? Kennel wood is a small little slivers of wood that you're going to use to start the fire. So you have kennel wood. I'm sorry?
I got you.
Yeah, because to split a log by hand, it's going to be pretty hard.
That one has
Hydraulic?
It's like a jack.
Okay. So it's a hydraulic with a
Yes,
pump.
it's manual, yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I never knew of that one. A hydraulic with a pump, and it works. Howard Frey has it. Okay, so that's a good option. You know. The other thing is if you're good at swinging, when you're swinging an axe, it's not a bad idea to get a big stump that you use to chop your wood. Okay. So if you can get a big stump, you can put your wood up there. And the reason why I'm saying it's a good idea to elevate your wood, especially if you're only going to be cutting, let's say for instance, 12-inch pieces for your firebox. Let's say you got a small stove, and it's 12 inch. If you got it down to the ground, you're going to have two problems. You're going to have a tendency, you got to get all the way down there to reach the wood. But the bigger danger that I have found is that when wood is that low, you have a tendency of swinging it and coming what? Towards your leg. Keep in mind, it can be very dangerous. From the get-go, keep in mind that the axe should come down, not like this, okay? Don't, some people get like this, and I see the axe comes underneath their legs, and that's very dangerous. That axe should go straight down, right? And the wood, that big, you have a piece of stump, you can use that where your axe lands, where your axe lands, okay? And so very, very careful. Typically, you carry the axe, okay, like I'm holding here from the handle and from the neck. And normally, what I would do, I get myself comfortable, and I'll go up in the air, and then I'll slide it. This hand will just slide down and come down, straight down, okay. So then I'll take it again, and I'll go up, and I'll slide this hand down on the axe and come straight down with it, okay. That's how you want to use an axe properly. Wear safety glasses because when you hit it, sometimes wood flies, or chip flies. I mean, anything can go into your eyes. Always be safe, okay? And preferably when you're cutting wood, use cowhide gloves or leather gloves. That will not penetrate splinters as easy as your rubber gloves or your, the other light fabric gloves, okay? So use some good gloves when you're doing this kind of work.
It's a question and maybe you don't know or you cannot cover, but what about when you want to cut wood for making for making wood to build?
Okay, if you want to make wood to build, then you have to use what is called a sawmill. Okay, if you want to make your own wood, we just purchased a sawmill. They're not cheap. I bought it from Wood Miser. I didn't want to buy the bottom line, so I bought kind of like the second or the third one up. It's still not a one that I'm going to be using for producing, big quantities of wood. But I think I paid like $8,000 for my sawmill, $7,000 something because I ordered. It's actually like $6,000, but I ordered an extension. I want to get longer wood, like 14 foot long, and then I also I upgraded the engine, so I got an engine that's a little bit bigger. But basically, what a sawmill is a bandsaw, is a giant bandsaw. Okay, a bandsaw is a saw that runs with a big belt. Okay, and that belt is doing the cutting. Okay, so that belt has the teeth in it, and it rides on rails, and now you're just walking it through the length of the timber. That's called a sawmill. Okay, and then you're cutting these planks. You're cutting this wood. Okay, so it is a process. I mean, if you wanted to cut your wood for your home, if you have the time, it is a process. Cut the trees, you gotta log the tree, and you gotta prepare it, you gotta debark it, and so it is a process. But people in my area do it. I helped one Amish neighbor. We helped them move. This is why it's beautiful to be able to serve your neighbors where they need. He had a bunch of logs he had to get by his sawmill, and he was going to do it with his horses. It would take him all day. So Brother Eli, by the way, I call all the Amish brother. I said, Brother Eli, I call even sometimes I end up calling my clients or I say, brother, I had the habit, and that's a good habit, I think, isn't it? Yeah. But I called Brother Eli. Brother Eli needed a hand. He says, you think you'd come over here and help me with your bobcat and get all these logs over here? I think I did it in like 1 hour, when it would taken him all day with his horses to drag the timbers. And he was gonna sawmill all these big long trunks, you know. After I do that, he says, Sam, so what do I owe you? He goes, Eli, come on, you don't owe me anything. He goes, oh, I was afraid of that. Then he says, can I ask you again, what is it that you guys believe in? You know, Amish don't care usually about any other religion or what other people think. They usually think that it's the world or them.
Yeah.
You know? And I say respectfully. They believe in salvation by works. They believe that you can't become Amish because it's too hard to live an Amish life to be right with God. But he began to ask me questions, and now he regularly makes me questions about prophecy, because Amish don't study prophecy. They're scared of the book of Revelation. They say that the bishop in their area says, stay away from Revelation. It's only going to confuse you, and it is a book that is difficult to understand. And I thought, but Brother Eli, have you read the first verse in Revelation 1, chapter 1? It says the revelation of Jesus Christ. It's to reveal you who Jesus is. Why would anybody say don't read it? See the danger, Brother Eli, it is to follow the words of a man. And I went out and told him, because we have this confidence. It's dangerous to follow the words of a man. He goes, man, I never thought of that. So whatever seed that planted, praise God. Okay, so yes, sister, if you wanted to get into a sawmill, there's nothing wrong with it. You guys got a lot of trees over here. You know, you can make a lot of nice wood. You can make wood to sell. So, you know, if you invest in something like that, you can also do, and you can build sheds. You can do a lot of things with that, you know, with a sawmill. Personally, I bought it because I have three trailers right now that need new planks on them, new boards. And they're oak because I put heavy equipment on them. And so I went and I priced the oak already milled. And I'm like, man, this is more than half of what it would cost me to buy a sawmill. I said, I'm just going to buy a sawmill and mill my own wood, because other folks that are moving to the country in our area, because by the way, that's what we do with our ministry too. And I'll give you some more information, but we try to help people that are moving to the country and go and spend time in helping them establish their home in the country. But anyhow, they're cutting these huge oak trees to make room with this property they bought. And I'm like, man, this is good. This is a lot of oak there, you know. And he's like, I got too much that I can handle. And I said, well, I'll be glad to take some of it if you don't mind. He goes, take it. Man, I'm like, that's good. I mean, I'm talking some oak trees, 24, 30-inch diameter. And those are beautiful. I mean, and they're big. So we're cutting those trees down, and I'm going to use some of those. But, you know, so keep in mind that if you want to get to sawmilling, I don't see why you couldn't. When I see Amish doing all of these things, I always say to myself, man, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing these things? It doesn't mean that everybody has to own a sawmill, but you know, what they do is, you know, one Amish, he was borrowing a sawmill from another Amish, okay? Because they share things, or they rent things to each other, or they help each other, you know? Like, man, this was supposed to be the economy where we're supposed to be. You know, some of the things that they have. Now, I still tell my family, look, the Amish are blessed because we are in this neighborhood. Don't miss it. Okay? Yes, we are blessed to learn a lot from them, but the ones that are really blessed is us that are here bringing them what? The message, that everything we've been talking about, right? So don't ever think to yourself that, that the Lord doesn't have you there for a reason. Okay? We're there to shed this light, this wonderful light. So let me see what else I can cover as much as we can. So here's another type of log splitter. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a hydraulic log splitter. Okay? Yes. Yes, so this log splitter here, you can probably get one at a cost of $800. Just make sure it is a hydraulic, it is a log splitter that is in a recognizable, in a place where you buy tools from it, and it is decent for the use you need. Okay? There's some log splitters, by the way, let me give you another one, that is the log splitter that you're seeing now will actually have a lever that now you can stand it up. So The log splitter is laying down, you put your wood up here, and it splits. Some log splitters have a nice feature. You release the lever, and now it stands up. Now this part sits on the ground, right? Now you bring the log, because it's too heavy to lift up. You move the log over to the log splitter, and the splitter works its way down and begins to split. If you got big trunks of wood, without you having to try to lift it up there, or without having to spend expensive money on a log splitter that lifts the wood up for you, you roll that log to the log splitter, and now the hydraulic works its way down into it. You follow me? Okay? So there's just some advantages that you see in different log splitters. So if you know that you're going to be cutting some of those big, your property has some of the big pieces of log, then that would be a good log splitter to buy if you want to get into that, you know, into a log splitter. Because then you're not trying to figure out how are you going to get this big log up on top of the log splitter. Very heavy, you know, and you want to be careful. And then, like I said, I talked about the rack and pinion. That rack and pinion, people like it because it's fast. It's literally got a rack and pinion that drives the wedge, boom, boom. So you put a log in there, and then you pull the lever, boom, splits it. You put another one, boom, splits it really fast. And I think I got one in there, by the way, just to show. Let me just see. I got one there. That's a rack and pinion right there. Show them that one real quick. That one is fast, but I personally feel that it's too dangerous to have around my children. My son is only 11 years old, and I did not want to, I'm not more concerned about speed than I am safety, you know? So that's why I stuck with just a slow hydraulic log splitter. What else can we talk about really quick? I wanted to get in there. So let me talk a little bit about.
Before you go ahead. So the trees we have are like 60 years old.
Okay.
City trees. We didn't have all our I keep thinking for the future. I can buy a lot of more than I have to start with. Sometimes I can't buy it. And I don't have those big trees. And I know you should be cutting now if you were gonna do that. So it's like, trying to figure out what is our option.
Very good question. Okay, it could very well be. Do you know what kind of trees are they?
Some are fine, but front the back of this thing, you know, they're
Okay.
but they look just like those, you stand around it.
Sure. Okay, so his question is, what happens when we don't have enough trees on the property and the time of no buy no sell comes and now you don't have enough wood to burn? Well, that's a couple of things we can do to try to maintain the habit of at least having to purchase wood. Like I said before, if you have a semi of wood come to your property delivered, for instance, in our area, I think one Amish neighbor told me that he can get a whole semi for like $1,000, whole semi of logs. If you think about it, that can give you wood for 3 years. You know, now you have wood for 3 years. So wood can be stored for a period of time, but wood if it's stored too long and it's over dried, then it becomes no good. You know, so you can maintain the wood. That's why it's important to know what kind of wood you have in your area, what is accessible. And sometimes you can order wood for even up to 3 years. Now, I know that some have said that the time of Jacob's trouble, they don't quote me on this. I'm just giving you something that I heard. It's approximately 3 years, the time of no buy no sell. It's not going to be for eternity, you know, but it's going to be a short period of time. And so think about it. We need to get through just a short period of time. I'm not going to set time. Don't quote me on that. But I imagine that we don't need wood like from time of no buy no sell for 10 years, for 5 years. I would like to think that the period is going to be a short period.
There's always ways to do that when you don't have enough. So sometimes you live in the country, and then you walking down the road, there's a tree leaning down. You go under your pickup, you cut it, cut it in small pieces, and put it in your pickup, and that's it.
That could be a problem because we've had that happen, and then owners come out and say, "That's my tree. You can't cut that." Or sometimes.
But it was in the middle of the road. I mean, because it was blocking the
Oh,
road.
like a storm. Yeah.
It was blocking the road.
Yeah. You could definitely. Yeah, you can take a. Yeah, matter of fact, like what he's saying right now is true because there's a lot of work going on one of the roads in construction, and they're taking down a lot of oak trees, and everybody was flocking there and says, "Can we have that tree? Can we have the trees? Can we?" And by the time I got there, everybody had already. They said, "You're too late." Everybody already. It's already been answered for. Yes, sister.
A question. In the case that you don't have too many trees, can you use pine trees to burn? And what will be the way to safely do?
I burn everything from leftover scrap, 2x4s. I make my kennel wood out of old 2x4s. I just do not use any plywood or any treated wood. Because again, I'm sorry? Yes, skid pallets, if you get whatever you can. See, these are things that we sometimes don't always think about. But you always got to think about. Sometimes you go to a local sawmill and for a fraction of a cost, you can get all the bark that they cut that has the oak, and you can cut all of that and you can use that for firewood. You got to look for resources because the wood is going to be very, very important to heat.
Because how many people say that you cannot use pine, that's no good. And
Pastor Torres heats with nothing but pine because that's all he has in his area.
okay.
It depends where you're at. Obviously, if you can get a hold of some hardwood, it's going to be better, But think of the resources that you have in your area that you can use for your wood.
We have a pallet place close to us, and they sell you a whole bucket full of remnants for $30.
Wow. Did you hear that?
A pallet place. They sell you
Brother,
all
can you pass this over?
remnants.
This is going to be, this is a moisture meter. This is a meter to check the moisture in your wood. You probably have it for the hardwood floors, right? Yeah, so this is a meter that you will use and you can order it online, a meter it's like $20 to check the moisture content on your wood. You want to have one of those because you want to know is your wood ready to burn. Follow me? So you want to make sure that you have one so that you know what condition your wood is in.
How moisture are you looking for?
I bought. I did the same thing I recommended. I looked at the reviews, but I can't remember right now the name of it. If it comes back to me, I'll give you the name. But I'm gonna leave my number because in case I can be of some help, you're more than welcome to call me. Let me write my number on.
Let me check.
What's the moisture? To check the moisture of the wood.
You don't see, right? Okay, if you want to take down my number, you're welcome to. 773 is the area code. 773-447-2120. If you want to take it, you're welcome to. And if I can be 773 is the area code. 447-2120. Yes, email is SAMLOPEZ 1113 at yahoo.com. Sure. It's Sam Lopez, SAMLOPEZ 1113.
Maybe
I
if
know, I
you
can-
write it,
I don't have the 1113 at yahoo.com. The reason I'm giving you my number as well is if I can be of any help or point you to a resource, I'd be glad to. But also, brothers and sisters, I believe that one of the things that Christ is going to want to see before he returns is going to be a unity amongst his people. The economy that God established in the Old Testament was an economy that the brethren were supposed to help each other. Nobody was left behind. An elderly, less fortunate, whatever the case may be, a widow, nobody was left behind. We were supposed to help each other. Don't make country living a selfish matter. Don't make moving to the country a selfish matter. Okay, there's things that we have so many things to do that we haven't even got to for our own sustainability that we're so busy sometimes working and doing other things. But I told my wife, I said, look, honey, whenever we help someone, I've noticed that people down later come and help us, and we're blessed. So make time to bless others, you know? Don't think only of yourself and this preparation. But what I was getting at is that for years I've been talking about us coming together and maintaining this contact with each other, of going in groups and helping someone who's moving to the country who does not have all the money that it takes to set up their small home, or, you know, like I said before, like with Brother George, we came out here with carpentry and helped him put up the fence, and then I also brought a piece of equipment with me. We can sometimes take a small backhoe. Over here in Alabama with Pastor Davis, we took a small backhoe, and he needed to rebuild the bridge. He had gotten prices about anywhere from $100,000 to $180,000 to rebuild this bridge. We did it for under $30,000 by God's grace. Okay, so he calls it his little highway bridge, you know, because you know, we're there to help each other, brothers and sisters. We're there to help, you know, and that's the spirit that we should have, you know, to work and help each other. So keep that in mind. There was a sister in Washington that was starting to gather names and information, because the idea would be, let's say for instance we go and help my brother, right? By virtue of that, his willingness to go and help on another project or other projects should be just the same, right? We go help you, and then now you say, you know, when is the next project coming so that I can go and help, you know? And now people are willing to go and travel and help each other, you know, in this building process. And I'm talking about us being honest and being, if there's something that you can do, if you have the resources to do it, you know, we want, this is where it becomes, maybe I want to say, your part to be honest and sincere. I really don't have the money. I really don't have the means. You know, you don't want to store your money and say, let me get that for free, and now I got money to do what I want to do. You know, I still got to take a vacation or something. No. That's not how we want to do things, brothers and sisters, you know. We want to be able to be honest with each other and say, look, I really need help, you know. And I think that God's going to lead us, and God will bring you the help that you need if you do things that way, you know. So let's keep those things in mind.
Do you have the information of the sister?
I beg your pardon?
Do you have the information of the sister who's from that?
Oh, yes, let me give you her name. And this way you can contact her and give her your information. Her name is Judy. And her last name is Castrejon. Castrejón. I beg your pardon? With an accent. Correct. Her number is 584, I'm sorry, 7192. I'm going to give you the second number because I think it's her husband, Vincent. 360-451-3282. Now the reason she's doing this is because I'm horrible with computers, and look, I even forgot my cable for us. I am terrible with computers and technology and organizing this way. But she's a school teacher who's getting ready to retire, and she's willing, she's bilingual, she's willing to put together kind of a network where we can start getting a network. And you know, let's say somebody from Florida is moving to Tennessee and doesn't know a whole lot of people. Well, you know, she may have this network where, you know, I know 7 people in that area that are in this list that may be willing to help you. You see what I'm saying? Wouldn't that be nice if we can do that, brothers and sisters? You know? And so I think that that's really what we're trying to get to, is get to the point where we can help each other before Jesus comes, you know, and think of others. Let me see if I can cover. See, now, if you build a wood shed, you want to show this, brother? Notice how the boards are separated behind it, because the wood shed the wood has to breathe. You follow me? You don't want to trap the wood from air. Air, you need air for the proper curing.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's what I wanted.
That's just one simple model. You know, you can do it, you know, different ways. But that's one way of doing it.
I just know what these
Well,
are.
this is for what? For
That's for storing your wood.
storage.
Para guardar su madera, right. And the reason, like I said, sister, that if you got the gaps, is because you need to let air go through, right?
Yeah. So
Like
when
you
the-
can
when
use
the
pallets
rain
to bake.
came, It's
Use
getting rain
pallets.
in the
It
front.
doesn't matter if it
Yeah.
gets wet. What you don't want is constant rain on it, you know? That's what you
Will
don't
be,
want.
anyway, the wood will be covered with,
No, you don't want to, if you have it in the shed, you don't cover it.
no?
No. You just need it dry. If it gets a little wet when it rains and the wind is blowing to the side, not a big deal. Not a big deal. What you don't want is the wood constantly getting wet. You know, that's why you create that roof over it.
How the ceiling is made, the roof?
That's probably either a shingle or a metal roof. You can do, yeah, you can do either way.
Do you want this?
Él me la funciona así.
Ah, okay.
We spoke about like the root cellar.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about a root cellar then. So, see, here's another one that's stacked low, right? Sister?
Oh,
That's how the wood is stacked. That's how it's stacked in there. Okay? You put your wood and you protect it from, from the rain. You're gonna need a root cellar because what you harvest in the fall, there's different ways. For instance, how do you guys store potatoes over here? How do you store potatoes? Or onions. Okay, one idea is this. In your root cellar, you make these boxes, shelves out of boxes that you put sand in them. And you bury them in the sand. And they stay fresh there. The temperature in the winter time, if it's 50 degrees average, if it gets a little colder, the sand protects them. Onions, you can store them like that in the sand.
In sand.
In the sand.
In a box.
In a box, right.
Made out of wood.
Made out of wood. Made out of wood.
Does it need the pieces of wood to have
You need wood.
space for air?
No. Just the wood to contain the sand, and you can make them in long shelves. Some people. Now, let me first finish this. Some people don't use that. That's just one method. Keeps them fresh in the sand. Okay. Other people just put them in crates. Again, open crates, right? So that they ventilate. But the danger with potatoes, if you don't have a vent, they release gas that is toxic. And I heard, I cannot prove this, because I was told from a friend that the root cellar that they had one time was sealed off, and he had all his potatoes in there. He went into his root cellar, and as he was down there, he began to breathe this contaminated air, and he died. So I don't know how serious that really is. I don't want to test it, and I haven't bothered to really look up.
I think they should be in a dark place because if not, there's hard to semillas.
Yeah, no. They have to be in the dark. That's why the root cellar is below ground, is dark, it's cold. You don't want it damp necessarily. You don't want it damp. You want to reduce the moisture, but you don't want it damp. And then, like I said, you want to protect it from animals too, from getting in there. What some people have done have made the root cellars in the slope of a hill. Okay, they've got it in the slope of a hill. They cut into it, and then what they do is once they cut into it, they'll take some of that earth and they'll bury around it and in front of it, and then they'll make kind of a walkway to it. You follow me? So that you're actually walking into your root cellar rather than going down. So if you have an area where you have a slope, you can actually build a root cellar where you literally walk in, okay? And now you don't have to dig down into the ground, but you dig it into the mountain. But you use that same dirt to cover it because you want to keep it obviously, at that temperature. Preferably, a root cellar can be where it's not, sun's not hitting it, and maybe, it's shaded or where trees are above it or something like that, just to keep it, as best as possible in cool temperatures.
So already buried in the sand, it doesn't release the gas?
Well, I cannot verify that. I'll be honest with you. I cannot verify that because I put vents on mine. Okay, when you put the vents in the root cellar, you need one up high for the gases that rise, escape, and then one low because cold air is dense. So the cold air will come down. So even if you put the holes in the root cellar in the same spot, keep one high and then bring one with an elbow and low. because one will allow air to come down and you know, air, cold air is dense and it will come down, and the other will allow the air to escape. Does that make sense?
What size
Laws
pipe?
of physics.
What size?
I use the 4-inch. I use the 4-inch pipe, 4-inch PVC.
So
And I
you-
put the 4-inch PVC right through my concrete. Yeah.
So you saw our place for a root cellar, and you have them in the same, I mean,
I saw one that leads to the house. I don't know what that's for.
I mean, it was supposed to be bent.
You don't want to vent to the house. No, you want to vent outside. So you need 2 holes venting outside. I think I showed your husband.
Okay,
You need a second hole. One you're going to keep high, and you want to make sure you cover that so you don't get no
animals, yeah.
animals coming in there. You want to keep one high, and then the other one you want to come over and down,
Okay,
and
so,
leave it low on the
and you
ground.
can do that inside,
That's inside, right?
inside.
Correct. Okay, so that you have proper ventilation for your root cellar. Now, if it's not being used, you can cap them. You know, if your root cellar is not being used, you know, in the summertime or what have you, you can cap them off. You know, but you know, obviously when it's in use, then you want to keep them ventilated.
But you can even in summer keep your regular veggies there.
Yes, you can do that.
If you have a very small refrigerator,
Yes.
you know,
We use
by
it-
solar panel, then you can use to put all your,
My wife keeps canning goods in there, and she, you know, and then we're going to use the vegetables in there as well. You know, so yes, you can do cannings, and you can do your veggies in the root cellar. Root cellar can be made out of concrete, block, timbers. You know, it could be made out of the old railroad ties. You know, you can do anything you want. The idea is to make something that is strong, that'll help retain the earth from collapsing. This is some of the areas that we have found that, you know, like for instance, recycling on doors. Remember I was talking about doors? You know, that you can get doors in reusable doors for a fraction of a cost. $15 for a door. You know how much a door costs right now? You go to Menards?
Over
$200, $300. You can get a door for $15, you know? You can build your house really inexpensively, you know? Windows, you know, the same thing with windows. I would recommend if you're gonna use recycled materials, first buy the windows and the doors before building the house, so that you know what size you're gonna use for what area you're gonna put it in. Because then if you build a house, now you're gonna looking for windows. I need a window to fit. You know, now you're having a hard time. So buy windows and doors if you're gonna use reused, and then build, because then now you know the openings you're gonna make. Remember we talked about openings? This guy really recycled. He used an old boat for
a roof.
the roof, old windows. I mean, he literally, you know, yeah. So you know, it's not. But here, kind of like I was saying, look at this shed. You know, this shed is made with recycled metal sidings. You know, recycled roof, metal roof. It's kind of like what Brother George did with the showers there. You know, all recycled material. And look at, once you paint that metal, it'll look like you have a brand new shed. You know, you don't have to go to Home Depot and your Lowe's and spend all this money on all this material. There's a lot of ways to save money. Look at this cabin for $300. Oops, I think I changed it. $300. A-frame cabin. $300, an A-frame cabin. Huh? Anywhere you want. It's all recycled material. Yeah. Anywhere you want. Recycled materials for $300. You know? Yeah. So, you know. These are just different models of sheds if you wanted to build something nicer. I got some sketches, actually it's a little blueprint on different sheds. If you had any interest, I can certainly give you, let you take copies.
you have it here?
I have it here, but I would have to make a copy. You can email me and I can email it to you, you know?
Okay.
You have anything for A-frames?
I beg your pardon?
You have anything for A-frames like that little one?
No, I don't have a drawing for A-frame, but you know, if you look up, this is pretty much. If you want to take a picture of this,
Let me take a picture from the shed.
there's a brother who lives near us who lived on 17 acres, and he built 4 sheds, or 4 cabins, all out of recycled material. So people are doing it, and it costs him a fraction. He's very, very, very fixed, and if I don't have to buy it at the Lowe's or the Menards, I'm gonna look everywhere else, and he's good at it. I mean, he does a lot of wonders with very little cost, you know? So keep that in mind. Any other things that, you know, you wanna maybe touch on?
¿Cuánto tiempo le puede tomar a una persona construir una casa de 2 o 3 cuartos?
Oh, okay, very good question. He's got a good point, and that just brought up another point I want to share with you. When moving to the country, and I'm going to get to that question. When moving to the country, everybody is always set on that they have to build it. You don't necessarily have to build it. There's different ideas that you can use. Like I gave you my testimony, we moved into an old mobile home. And so we used an old mobile home for the first 4 years when we lived in our property until we were able to sell that one and just get a mobile home that was a little bit more spacious. Some people are talking about building with containers, you know, building homes with containers. I recommend a couple of things. I recommend try to use a 1-level floor, because as you get older, climbing 2 or 3 floors, it's gonna get harder walking up and down stairs, you know? We're not getting younger, and you know, and so I suggest building a ranch style home. It's just a single level, unless you have stairs going to the basement. But eliminate stairs as much as possible, especially if you're gonna have elderly coming with you or something. You know, it saves you from walking up and down many stairs. You know, obviously some of the things to keep in mind is we're recommended even by the, you know, when you read Adventist Home, it's incredible. It even tells you where to put the house. It tells you how to ventilate it, etc. So you want to put it up high, you know, where your water's not gonna come and you know, it's gonna drench you with the rain. You want to set it up high. You want to keep it clear from any trees if possible. And I beg your pardon? Facing south, preferably, right? I remember, like I said, the one mobile home that we had at first, I put 2 skylights on it, and in the wintertime, sometimes in a plain winter when the sun was out, it was so well insulated, we didn't even touch the heater during the winter. And you know, and I'm talking, you know, 15 degrees above, 20 degrees above, and it was so nice and warm in the wintertime. You know, the only time we needed to turn it on was at nighttime. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be able to do, brother, to stretch the use of wood even in the very cold winter days, you know. You know, like just sleeping in the tent. As soon as the sun would come up, I would begin to peek my head out of my sleeping bag. I'm like, yes, heat. You know, the sun, God gave us a sun, and it is just a blessing, you know. So the sun can work in your favor if we do that correctly. So building 2 or 3 levels, it could take some time, but I don't personally recommend it unless you have the ability. Now, that's another thing. If you're gonna build a house, make sure, remember the verse I shared with you in Luke. Make sure that you have the ability and the resources to build your own house. That you have at least some knowledge and you have some skill to be involved and time to do it. I myself, having the skill, was a humbling experience, but the Lord led me to buy a mobile home. And when I first moved into the mobile home, yes, I did a few complaining with my wife. I said, see, this is why I wanted to build a house, because this is cheaply built, you know? And I would notice every defect, and my wife said, but don't worry about it. Well, yeah, you're right. And so I finally got over that. So the trim in my mobile home is the bottom line trim, you know? It's bottom line doors. And here I'm a carpenter, you know? And I had the house that I said I built in Illinois, $500,000 home, you know? And when I built that house, my doors were $800 a piece, you know? And I was thinking at a whole different level than I am now, you know? Now I have if I'm lucky, I have a $50 door. So, but that's okay, that's all right, you know? It looks nice, it looks clean. When you come over, I hope you feel comfortable.
Go ahead.
So, if you're building, what happened if, I noticed that, I heard that the south side of the sun turns to north. Is that, should you build something that, in the structure of the house, that in the summer, it decreases the heat coming through?
Well, that all depends. Like my brother said, if you use the sun of the south, you know, you want to position your home where you would like to receive the most sun, where you're going to receive the most heat. You know, me personally, I don't like the house facing south, because all that sun, beats right in the front. I'd rather have it turned around where you get the sun, you get the warmth, if you need it. But, it all depends, but that's something to consider when you're positioning your home, And like I said, building a house takes time, you gotta build the foundation, whatever you decide to do, post a beam or footing and foundation, or a slab on grade. Then you gotta frame it, then you gotta run electric, plumbing, insulation, drywall, trim. There's a lot involved in building. I'm not discouraging you, but there's a lot involved in building a home, so keep that in mind. Oh, and use the resources in your area. I was talking to one of my sisters from Dominican Republic, and she's gonna build over there as a sister. The first recommendation is I say build with what is locally available and economical, not cheap, not in the sense of poor quality, but what is inexpensive, but what is built. She's gonna build with block, but her concern was with the heating up those houses, and in Mexico is the same problem. And what happens is the sun hits these houses, and in the evening, it gets so hot that even into the night hours, the houses are very hot. Even if you open the windows, it's so hot. So what happens is that there's ways in Mexico that you can build on a concrete roof a layer of brick. It's a special brick, and then another layer of cement, and that helps tremendously cool down the house so that you're not faced with all that heat. Over here we use insulation. You want a lot of insulation on that roof, because when the summer is, if you don't have no air conditioning and the summer is beating down on your roof, that's gonna really heat up your house. So good insulation on that roof, good insulation on the floor, So those are gonna be very important. But above all, the roof, I would say, because over here in Tennessee, you have more problems with the heat of the sun, right, in the summer, especially like I said, you're all in a position of facing the sun. Want to make sure you got insulation, good insulation on that roof. You had a question, brother?
Yeah, let him go first.
Oh, okay.
He was good.
Can you touch on water collecting if you are too far from the water line?
Okay, I'll touch on that. Let me touch on that after. Did you have something in relation to what we were talking about?
Just on that is just like what you said. The reason why I'm asking is a lot in this area, the sun hits more on the heat on the roof,
Right.
and so it gets really hot. And let's say, like you said, if you're building a house, look out. You don't, you usually use AC, but I heard that if you paint, if the roof is light colors instead of dark colors, the sun will look more dark colors than light colors.
Correct. Lighter colors will reflect the sun. Darker colors will be more absorbent to the heat. All in all, even if you have a light colored roof, you're gonna have some heat, but you'll maintain that insulation on there. With storage of water, you're saying,
Collecting your own water.
collecting your own water. I don't have a lot of experience in that, but I've seen people that are doing it. They collect water. Some have actually underground cisterns. So if you have a well, underground cistern, if you have the capability of building an underground cistern, would not be a bad idea. Because if your well is running, let's say on solar or on electricity, the power goes out or you're down on your batteries, now you can go to that cistern, especially us, we have the well at 280 feet deep. And so now you can go to that cistern and you put a hand pump and you can draw water out of your well easily. Right now, if we want a well if we want a pump in our well, right now I looked at one that's up to 300 feet and it's a $1,200 or $1,500 pump, a water well pump. But even then, there's a lot of pumping to bring water all the way up, and the gallons per minute is going to be very slow. But if you have a capability of an underground cistern where you're pumping water when you have energy and you fill this up, now you can go there and just get water when you need it,
Te digo, like in rainwater, okay, about rainwater, when hermano Joa that water has aluminum. Even though it's comes from the rainwater, even though it comes from, it has aluminum. So now you have to have another type of filter.
Yes,
Probably like a charcoal filter.
Yeah,
And that's one of the, jobs.
it all depends what you have in your area. We have high nitrogen in our water, so we don't drink it unless it's filtered.
And usually they collect water just from the roofs, like particularly metal roofs, like what we do in Arizona, and just using rain gutters and into a big water collection tank. So we collect up to 30,000, well, not ours, but some of our friends have 30,000 gallons worth of rainwater that we collect.
Yeah.
Once it rains a lot,
Yes.
especially here too.
There's a lot of systems you
Never
can set
know.
up for that.
With climate change, you never know, there could be a drought anywhere, you know?
Yes, brother.
So he was talking about that, have you looked at the Berkey water filter system?
I have not. I think there's a couple of them that we're looking at, but
That's the one that uses gravity, just to filter the water. It's not-
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, those are still on a smaller level though. Like,
Okay.
I have a Berkey at home.
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
For drinking
in
water.
case you use the rainwater, you're not,
Yeah.
you're not.
Let us finish with the word of prayer. I think it's Brother Ernie's time. And if you have any more questions, like I said, and I can help with whatever information the Lord has given me, I'll be glad to share. But I am glad to see that more and more people, like myself, by God's grace, are getting involved in the part, in the aspect of construction and building, firewood, and all of these things that are very important and very key. And can save us a headache in the long run if we do things and later says, man, why didn't I ask? Why didn't I think about this? So make sure that, you communicate someone that you can begin to get, more ideas and information. Let us stand, please. And Brother Ernie, can you close us with a word of prayer?
Yes.
As you begin your session?
Yes. All right, let's bow our heads. Gracious, loving Heavenly Father, thank you so much again for all the information you've given us, Lord. But Lord, I know that it could be overwhelming at times. It could feel like there's just so much to learn. Well, Lord, I know that you wish not one person to perish. You want each of us to be prepared. As long as our desire is to seek you and to continue to want to do your will, Lord, I know that you're going to pave the way and open the doors.
Yes.
There are so many testimonies that many people have, many people have been helped and see your hand in all of their journey to the country and building their homes and getting their sanitariums or their outpost stuff or anything.
Yes.
But Lord, nothing is too hard for you. Time and time again, you show that we just need to be willing.
Yes.
And Lord, I think in the grand scheme of things, the big picture is that through it all, you really want just our characters to be established,
Yes.
to be just like you,
Yes.
to have your character. And so Lord, help us as we see the task at hand, that the only person we really have to rely on is you.
Yes.
So thank you, Lord. I ask a special blessing for each and every one here. And I ask that as we close out our meeting and as we begin our next session, Lord, I ask that you please continue to send your Holy Spirit upon us,
Amen.
that we may be encouraged. And as we walk away from here, we'll walk away changed, ready with fresh zeal to continue the work. As I ask this in Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen. Amen. May God bless you all.